Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King 3. And today I'm going to be giving you part 32 of What If Naruto Was Neglected, with Jashin sealed inside of him. Remember to get this one to 100 like as usual, share this to all of your friends in your social media platform, and also guys, go ahead and check out the brand new episode over Anime King of What If Naruto Was a Hope of the Uchiha Clan, and enjoy that guys, and also stay tuned for a brand new episode over on Anime King 2, which I hope you guys will enjoy, of What If Naruto Was Put Through Hell and Adopted by the Five Kage. Stay tuned for that guys, and I hope you guys enjoy. And remember, if you're new, to go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And yes, you heard that correctly. I indeed have 3 channels, Anime King, Anime King 2, Anime King 3, which I post what if on every single day for you guys to enjoy. So go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and support. And yeah, without further ado, would you say begin this new episode? Start the intro. So, the last time we left off, Jashin had arrived at Konoha, hearing that she had information about Naruto, Minato allowed her to enter, while the envoys kept a weary eye on her just in case. She told him that if Naruto get what he wanted, she was sure that this world would be destroyed. Not just him or their allies would die. Everyone, every single one. All of them will suffer as well, because their soul would not be taken to the pure world. It would be taken by him. Minato had yet to find Naruto, but he was calling a meeting of the Kages. As Naruto seemed to be helping the Akatsuki in some way after all, he took the tail beast, and that is the Akatsuki main goal. Using that momentum, he can use that to take the attack straight towards Naruto after they found him. And with the rally of the other nations, well, it will help. Unknown to him, everything was gonna fall right in his palm because Naruto was at Kumo. As Naruto brought down black lightning from the heavens and dropped it in the center of the village, chaos ensued immediately as the Raikage came from his office. A battle between him and Naruto took place, as Naruto put him right in his place by knocking him like he was nothing but a child. Their battle was intense as they ripped through the land of Kumo, breaking through mountains. But eventually Naruto put him down. But before he could take the man's life, Killer Bee arrived, as Killer Bee tossed Naruto straight over towards the valley. Killer Bee wasted no time to attack Naruto, as Naruto attacked him back. Their battle was chaotic as Killer Bee was forced to transform fully. Animalistic, the Bijou came out wild, as the Jaiki could feel that something was wrong with this person, whoever it was. It was not normal as the Jaiki went all out. A Bijou bomb was sent towards Naruto, which Naruto deflected, and he absorbed it and sent it right towards the 8 heels. The thing was sent sealed and smashed in the ground. As Naruto applied so much power in his 2 fingers, he dropped it on the Jaiki's head. The thing head squashed into the ground, as he literally killed it right there and then, taking away its power before it could disperse. As he sealed it away inside of his palm, there was a crystal there. With that, he left Kumo, leaving behind nothing but chaos. The Raikage was in a bad condition, but he would get better soon to call for the meeting, as this was bad, and the man was pissed off as well. Meanwhile, Jashin spoke to her brother, as she had a suspicion that Naruto was gonna bring someone back. Someone that even the Shinigami fear. His name was Lucifer. Well, that name sent shivers down many people's spine, people like them, because of what he did in the past. But Yami assured her that that was not the case, as Lucifer had been banished to the far regions of a literal hellscape where he could not escape. So there was no problem of worrying about that. But still, Jashin was worried. Meanwhile, Naruto made his way back to the Hidden Stone. As Zetsu arrived, he told Zetsu to get onto the basin of calling the rest of the Akatsuki members, as Zetsu told him that the Hidden Ring was where the leader lay, after Naruto threatened to erase him. So with that out of the way, Kurosaki and the others emerged, confused by what was going on, as Naruto simply told Onki to reveal himself, well, the demon inside of him. Kurosaki was shocked as Naruto dragged his hand through her chest. She was just his pawn after all. He was just using her, like he was using almost everyone. As he placed something inside of her, when she spoke, her voice was no longer the same, as it was a demon inside of her that bowed towards Naruto and Gaara, as Gaara took her away. As Naruto made his way towards the hidden ring, the Akatsuki members didn't know why they were being summoned here. All of them were being called back, unknown to them. But they were being called back. Hidan didn't know why, but he had a bad feeling that something was wrong. But he shrugged it off and acted as brash as usual. Nagato felt something entering. It felt like it was there and yet it was not. With that he made his way as he found Naruto standing on top of his roof. Naruto made a big mistake as Nagato sent an iron right into his chest, but Naruto pulled it out with a smirk. As Nagato looked up in the sky after Naruto pointed upwards, as Nagato's eyes went wide. So yeah guys, that was basically that's what I thought. If you guys can switch across the place, check out for yourself. So to begin this new episode, we begin this new episode at Kiri. The Mizukage was absent. A meeting was called between the 5 great nations. Oniki did not respond, as they figured that he didn't want to be a part of this meeting. The Raikage was the one, after being contacted by Minato to call the meeting immediately. The man had recovered from his attacks, and he was furious. He wanted to rip Naruto to pieces. At the moment though, the ninjas of Kira was looking up in the sky, because something was wrong. A moment ago it was just a clear, pristine sky, clear and calm. But now, the sky was red. It was red like blood. White and black lightning crackled through the heavens. Thunder boom that shook the living ground. That was surprising. Every now and then a sizable earthquake went off. Civilians were panicking. People were scared as they figured that it was the end of the world or something. But the most shocking in development was the sea. The sea was drying up. This made absolutely no sense at all. How was that even possible? Meanwhile, the sand. The elders of the village looked at the strange phenomenon. That wasn't possible. Rain. The raindrops were red as they fall on the sand. The heaven was pouring down so hard. Something that never happened at sand before. It was midday, so this was rather shocking as the sky was red, to the point of like it was crying blood. At the stone, there was nothing that could be seen. The hidden stone was covered in a mist. A dark mist that did not show or give away anything about the village. The entire land of Earth was covered in a dark mist that you could not see through. It was just calm and empty. At Kumo, lightning that came down was swiping at the mountain, crashing every few seconds. Red, white, black lightning. Civilians were rushed towards the bunkers as panic ensued in the village. At Konoha, it was no different. Kakashi Hatake, with his one arm, ever since his battle with Naruto when Naruto ripped off his arm, he had recovered, but he was less in his prime now, with one of his arms missing. But that was not the problem as he looked up in the sky. He had a feeling that this had to do with a monster. Minato was not here. He had went to the meeting, taking along Guy and Menma with him. The villagers were being sent towards the bunkers because sizable earthquakes were going on. Several buildings in Konoha has already been destroyed. The place was splitting apart. It seemed like the world was coming to an end or something. As Kakashi stood there, as this monster was doing something and he was sure of it. He heard footsteps as he turned as he saw Mito walking up towards him. She looked worried. Kakashi-sensei, she said. As Kakashi turned towards her fully. It's him, isn't it, she said. Kakashi simply gulped as he felt his severed arm, his limb, throbbing. To the atmosphere, it was him indeed. Meanwhile, at the hidden ring, Nagato blasted off the ground, while Tendo with so much force that he cracked it underneath him. If that thing was to hit his village, it would be incinerated. Nagato was perplexed. Through all of his years, he had never seen something like this before. The sky had literally torn open an arm that was bigger than his village, that could squash his village, was coming down. As Nagato had flew Tendo straight up, pouring so much power, Conan started to panic. Blood seeped from his nose, his mouth, and his ears, even his eyes, as there was so much power that he gathered at his hand. The other paths went limp as he collapsed on the ground. Screams of terror and panic could be heard, the people running for their life. Conan dispersed into paper quickly to get the civilians to safety, as Nagato took it all in. Almighty. Push! The blast was chaotic, the repulsing force slamming right into the arm. It knocked it backwards. The amount of force that Nagato gathered into that blast forced him to slump over onto his mechanical walker, wrenching out his stomach, puking up blood. His entire body shook as he used so much chakra. It was enough to kill him, but he had to protect his village. The arm was blasted back into oblivion to wherever it came from, as a rift in the sky still remained though. Tendo dropped from the sky like a bomb as he slammed into the earth, cracking it underneath him, as Nagato was coughing violently. Meanwhile, the members of the Akatsuki had gathered, confused why they were here, but now they were shaken to what they saw. What the hell was that? Said Deidara, completely shocked and lost. It's him, Hidan said. So he's back. I wonder what he's up to now. Who? Asked Deidara, as he was surprised to see Hidan so calm for once. Usually he'd be cursing and screaming to the heavens about Jashin and all this, Jashin and all that. I'm sure he's here to kill Jashin-sama. Well, perhaps he was wrong, Deidara thought to himself. As Hidan made his way into the depths of the village, the other Akatsuki members, even though wary, made their way as well, as several civilians ran past them in panic and fright. Emerging in front of them was Conan. Lady Angel, said Deidara. What's going on? He asked. Someone is invading the village. Is that the reason why we were called? Asked Sasori. Why you were called? Who called you? She asked. Zetsu. Conan narrowed her eyes. We did not give Zetsu a signal to call you all. What? Wait, what the hell's going on? Meanwhile, the real Conan was currently standing over Nagato as she helped him back up as he leaned. The man was panting harshly, using so much engine that almighty push to stop that thing that he knew would have obliterated his village. Nagato had to catch his breath. He managed to muster up a small amount of chakra to get Tendo moving, but at the moment he couldn't use his powers. As Tendo got to his feet, laughter erupted as Tendo looked up to see Naruto standing there, a wicked grin on his face. I must say I'm surprised that you were actually able to stop that, said Naruto. Many wouldn't. Well, I guess that's the power of the Rinnegan for you, said Naruto. So, do you have more of those special attacks? After all, I'm here to work off my bloodlust. What are you? Said Tendo. What am I? Well, you call yourself a god, so you can call me the Antichrist, said Naruto, as he moved forward. Before he could reach Tendo though, several figures landed right in front of him. It was the remaining members of the Akatsuki, allowing Tendo to step back with a clone of Conan standing there. Ah, you're here. I see that you all got my invitation. You called us? Said Deidara, confused. I thought Zetsu was the one. Well, he did. Well, let's just say he betrayed you guys. Is that so? Said Kisame. I heard about you. The one that supposedly rose from the dead. Yes. Many people want you dead after what you did at Kumo. Not to mention your home village, said Kakazu. Quite the bounty on your head. A bounty, huh? So, if you were to take my head, you would collect a hefty sum. As Kakazu smiled at that under his mask, well then, said Naruto as he grabbed his hair. All of them watching complete shock as Naruto tore his head clean off. His body stood there was no blood. He tossed it towards Kakazu. They didn't know how to react towards this, but Kakazu reached out to grab the head, only for it to stop as Naruto's body reformed within a second and crushed Kakazu's face with a single kick. As Kakazu's body was launched like a bullet, he slammed through several buildings before coming to a stop as they toppled on top of him. Huh, I guess he wasn't fast enough to see that, said Naruto. Kisame glanced towards the bud that was over there that has now turned to dust, and returned back to Naruto. Ah, Hidan, you're awfully quiet. I knew that you returned. Seems you have gotten stronger. Yes. No thanks to your bitch, said Naruto. I heard what Jashin-sama did to you, but I will not let you harm her. Oh really, said Naruto. And tell me per se, how exactly are you going to stop me? Well, you're not the only one that can do fancy tricks, Hidan said. And besides, Jashin-sama won't allow me to die. As Hidan shot forward his sight, whipping to the air. Naruto smirked as he ducked underneath it. As Hidan came up with a spinning kick that smashed into Naruto's guard. Naruto was sent skittering back. Hidan launched himself forward as he swung several times. The first blade sliced into Naruto's flesh. Hidan jumped back as he looked at the dark tip on his blade, as he wasn't so sure if this was Naruto's blood, but that is what he got as he licked the blood. If it was that, it sure tastes like blood. He then drew his sigil on the ground as Naruto stood there and watched him, with a smirk on his face the entire time. Well, someone is cocky, Hidan said, but it doesn't matter. Your life is now sealed. Is that so, said Naruto. Yes, said Hidan as he stabbed himself right in the stomach. Naruto looked down, with a smirk on his face. Hidan pulled the pike out as he drove it into his chest. I'll just finish this, said Kisame as he leaped forward, with Samehata coming down. Kisame slammed Samehata right on Naruto. The ground cracked on Naruto's feet, shattering into oblivion. Samehata's spikes came out as he stabbed into Naruto's flesh. But Naruto yawned. I'm disappointed, he said. Kisame moved as hundreds of bombs. Clay bombs came down as they pelted the area, trying to wipe Naruto out of existence. Everyone stood there. Hidan was confused because he did not feel anything. And now that both of them share pain, it meant... He's behind you, said Hidan as he looked up in the sky. As Deidara turned, he opened his palm as a spider jumped out and lashed onto Naruto's face. Deidara jumped off his clay bird. Too slow. Guts! The explosion blew Naruto's face to oblivion, ripping it clean off. But yet he stood there in mid-air as a bird descended away from him. As Deidara landed on his bird, the members of the Akatsuki regrouped as they watched Naruto, who was laughing, but given the fact that his face was burst off, all they saw was teeth, sharp pointed teeth, gleaming red eyes, filled with nothing but darkness around his face. Now this is enjoyable. At least you have some skill to let me work off this bloodlust. A wave of bloodlust washed over him that swallowed the hidden rain. Hundreds, maybe thousands collapsed within seconds, unable to bear with the pressure. As Deidara dropped to one knee, Hidan was visibly shaking. Samehata was cowering as Naruto's gleaming red eyes landed on them. As Sasori was in his puppet, he could not feel things. He shouldn't be able to feel things, but yet his puppet body was telling him to move, to run. Why? It made no sense. Meanwhile, Pain had his eyes closed, while Nagato, as Conan stood guard in front of him, while her clones watched the match, he had his hands together as he tried to focus and gather his chakra to prepare for the most troublesome, dangerous match of his life. Suddenly, in a swirling vortex, he appeared. And what exactly is going on? said a voice as Konan turned. You took your time getting here, she said. Well, considering that the world seemed to be ending out there, I was investigating. He's here, isn't he? He is. I thought he wouldn't be a problem, said Madara, but I guess he is. As he walked up towards the balcony, as he saw Naruto in mid-air laughing right there. Meanwhile, at the sound, Orochimaru was out in the open. As Kabuto was beside him. My lord, is the world ending? It seems that way, Kabuto. Betraying someone that has enough vengeance to come back from the depths of hell to wreak vengeance on everyone. What are we gonna do? The moment we show our face Naruto, he will kill us. So that leaves us with one other option, said Orochimaru. An option that he hated, but he lived in its world and he couldn't afford to let it end on his watch. After all, the world was his playground after all. Meanwhile, back at the Hidden Rain, hundreds, no thousands of threads were sent towards Naruto. As Naruto turned, the threads impaled his body one after another. As Kakazu emerged, his entire face had been caved in. But his body was now a mass of writhing threads that was attached together. They tried to pour themselves inside of Naruto, who simply laughed. As Naruto's body started to heat up, let's see how threads face against hellfire. And indeed, hellfire came out of him. Kakazu's hearts were burned within seconds. Kisame is thrilled of the battle becoming too much. He launched himself despite Samehata protests. He swings Samehata in mid-air as Naruto turned and grabbed it once again. This time he did not let go. As he applied pressure, Kisame flashed one-handed seals and opened his mouth. Water sharp bomb, he said as he spewed water that swallowed the area. It rised up to where Naruto was, and that was quite the feat. Dozens of sharks started slamming into Naruto's body, who roared. The roar created a sound wave that blew away everything from him. As Naruto finished incinerating Kakazu, he then turned towards Kisame as he stood on top of the water. The remaining members shot forward as hundreds of needles were sent towards Naruto's location. As Naruto raised his hand before he took in a deep breath, he then released flames in the sky. Flames that fly up in the sky like a missile. They were red. As they then came down and slammed. They were like projectiles as the Akatsuki members had to move. Hidan was able to get behind Naruto as he swung his sight right towards Naruto's face. Naruto turned and grabbed it before snapping it. Hidan's eyes went wide as Naruto dragged his hand into his chest, gripping his heart. Hidan called for blood. You can't kill me, he said. Oh, can't I? Said Naruto. I am blessed by Jashin. You cannot kill me, Hidan said. She told me about your plan the moment that we first met. And I'd do anything to see her plan succeed. And you won't win against her. Compared to her, you're nothing. Oh. Naruto's voice turned dark. Is that so? Hidan felt something wrong as black markings started to run through his body. What is this? He screamed. He screamed out to the heavens, feeling pain like he never felt before as he cried, tears pooling from his eye. His silver hair turned pale as he started to fall out. His body got shriveled up, wrinkles all over as his hands dropped to his side. The next moment he was a very old man as he looked at Naruto's pain expression. As Naruto's chest ripped open, a giant mouth was inside his chest that devoured Hidan whole. That was a tasty meal, he says, he landed. As he had to deflect thousands of sandbones, that he simply raised his hand. A wall of mist came up and erased the sandbones into nothingness. The next moment, several dragons were sent towards him that made from clay. As he screeched, ripping through the sky, they countered him on both sides as Naruto looked up to see Deidara. The next moment, Naruto was gone. As Deidara felt that chill went up his spine. The souls of the crazy and chaotic. You will be fun in my new world, said Naruto. Deidara turned as he opened his palm. As several spiders this time they grabbed onto every part of Naruto's body, digging into his clothing, trying to get onto his skin. They implode on him as Naruto laughs. His body pummeled by explosions. Deidara jumped off his dragon, landing on a smaller one. Cuts as his dragon went boom. An explosion that brightened the entire sky. Naruto came flying out of it as Deidara's eyes went wide. His throat was grabbed as Naruto slammed him into the ground of the rain. A seismic earthquake went off, trembling all of the village. As Naruto picked him up and bashed him once again, his skull burst open as Naruto grabbed both of his eye sockets, pushing his finger in deep and ripping them clean out. Deidara cried out as Naruto stuffed his mouth with his own eyes before stomping it shut. Naruto then repeatedly bashed his skull against the ground until it was nothing but mush. He then turned that crazy look in his eyes and shot forward. Kisame slammed his hand down, water erupted from the ground. As Naruto's eyes burned red, beams of light erupted from his eyes that ripped right through Samihata as Kisame had raised him to stop it. But this was not chakra. As Naruto raised his hands to the heavens, the hidden rain cracked as literal hellfire poured from the ground. Kisame watched all around him as he started to bake. Naruto slammed his hand together, Kisame screamed as the hellfire consumed him. Naruto then turned as he came smashing the puppet that Sasori was in a second. Sasori had enough time to jump out though, but before he could blink, Naruto grabbed his face. There was a point of his arm that turned, and there was a canister as he pointed right in Naruto's face and released flames on contact. The flames burned Naruto's face so badly that once Sasori was done, the only thing that remained was a skull. But the skull had pure fire on it, as Naruto laughed demonically as he grabbed Sasori by the face before slowly squashing it to pieces. As Sasori tried to punch him and stab him, but nothing worked. As Naruto tore into his body, ripping it apart, tearing out his heart cylinder in the process. As Naruto laughed, his head surrounded by fire. As the fire slowly repaired his face before he was back to normal. Naruto blinked as the horn of a rhinoceros slammed right into him. He crashed through a building. As Naruto picked himself up, a gaping hole in his stomach before it started to refill itself. He smiled as he watched animals, a lot of them, surrounded him. So you want to play with pets, huh? He bit his finger and dropped it on the ground. As the ground trembled, as a demonic arm came out. The dog, Cerberus, the guardian of the gates of hell, emerged. Cerberus, said Naruto. But Cerberus was not the only one. A giant saber-toothed tiger, Apaka, said Naruto. Rip them to pieces. The two summoning deaths jumped forward. The beasts that were summoned by the path stood no chance as Naruto was surrounded by the 6 paths of pain. There was no thought, no hesitation. The robot path slammed right into Naruto, shredding to pieces as Naruto grabbed the buzzsaw with his bare hand before bringing up his feet. But the robot pain dodged as the buzzsaw ripped into Naruto's arm. As the robot pain was able to pull it out, the next moment a crushing punch slammed into the back of Naruto's head, knocking him forward as Naruto's eyes bulged, but the smile never left his face. The next moment, 2 double hands that were connected slammed into his skull, dropping him down to the ground. A force then sent him rocking away, but the human part dropped right into his stomach before gripping his head. He tried to pull Naruto's soul out, but nothing emerged. The human part was confused. What are you? He said. As Naruto's eyes started to burn red once again. Before the robot part could blink, his eyes were gone. As Naruto's ice beams burned right through them, Naruto ripped into his chest and jumped right through it, tearing him apart in the process. He was then attacked on several fronts by all the pains, but before he could blink, the ground in front of him erupted. He was blasted away by Tendo, only to be grabbed by the Prida Path, who tried to absorb the chakra inside of Naruto. The Prida Path had to stop immediately, but it was too late. His body started to deform and change shape. Meanwhile, Nagato coughed up blood as he dropped his head. "What's going on?" said Konan as she helped him back up. "This power," said Nagato, as the Preta path turned into dust. Naruto saw the revival path moving towards the human path. As he vanished, Naruto appeared above him as the revival path ducked. Another almighty push slammed right into Naruto. Not as strong as before, as Naruto was able to slam both hands in the ground, stopping himself from being blown away. A tail emerged from Naruto's spine. A tail made up of nothing but darkness as it sent forward. It ripped into the ground as it gouged out a large piece of the earth and tossed it. As Tendo raised his hand, the 5 seconds up as he blasted to pieces. The moment he did, he felt the connection of his revival path gone. A black flash that poured right into the pores of the revival path, ripping it from the inside out. As Naruto emerged, Tendo cursed at that, as 2 rods came from the animal path's sleeve as he shot forward. He tried to drive them into Naruto, but Naruto grabbed his wrist and jumped over him and flipped him, before slamming him into the ground with so much force. The body was blown to pieces, as Naruto was still holding on to the hands as he threw them to the side. "And then we're left with one," said Naruto. "I must say, you gave me enough time to work out this bloodlust of mine. For the upcoming event, I can't afford myself to have it. So you're the last one remaining. Although I can tell that you're not real. With my eyes, I can see the power inside of you that is leading towards that building over there. The tallest building. So, if I did this," as Naruto squeezed his palm. As he opened it, a black ball, surging with energy, appeared. He opened his other palm as a purple ball appeared. He then merged them together. Pain raised his arm, universal pull, as he yanked Naruto towards him. Naruto smirked, before driving both of the balls into the earth. The following explosion could be only considered as cosmic. A section of the hidden ring. Konan quickly spread her wings as she grabbed Nagato and flew him straight out of the air. With the irons in his back, she did not hesitate to fly him out of the air. As the entire section of the hidden ring right here was wiped out. The explosion was massive, tearing through the hidden ring. A seismic explosion. Hundreds, no thousands of civilians were taken out of the equation as their bodies were reduced to dust. They were just gone in the blink of an eye. Women, children, men, it didn't matter who they were. Psychotic laughter could be heard as Naruto stood in the midst of all this chaos, with a gleeful smile on his face. "Did you really think that would be enough to stop me? That just because you have those stupid idiotic eyes, that you would be enough," said Naruto. Tendo was gone. He was taken out of the equation as Konan placed Nagato down a far distant building that was away from the onslaught. "Konan, run," he said. "I can't leave you here. I'm gonna trap him away in my planetary devastation. I need you to run as far away as possible, unless I do this, because if I fail, we'll all die." "But go," he said to her, the anger and frustration and plead in his voice. "I'll come back for you," she said. "Once I'm done," he said, as she looked at her friend, her longest living friend, who slammed his hand together as a ball formed right in his palm. His legs were almost useless as he could not really move them at this stage, not having the proper amount of chocolate to repair himself. He released it. As Naruto was walking, he saw the black ball went up to the sky. Nagato slammed his hand together. Konan could not stay here because if she would be sucked away into as well. And he could only focus so much. He used a repelling force on himself to stay grounded. Planetary devastation. The hidden ring was further ripped apart. As Naruto was pulled up, he did not hesitate, he did not do anything. He just watched himself being slammed into this rock, before rocks upon rocks bombarded him. Nagato screamed out in rage, as blood poured from his nose and his mouth. His eyes were straining and his eyes were bleeding, as he poured so much chakra. The moment he was done, he collapsed on his side. The moon as big as the hidden rain. Many of his people die. Thousands. He lost. The Akatsuki was done for. After this, the only thing that he would do would be reviving his people. And leaving Conan in charge of everything because he was gonna die anyway. He could feel himself slipping away. He could barely move. He didn't have the chakra to do anything at the moment, other than wait and see if his plan worked, before sending that moon straight up in the sky, far, far away from this planet, so that they won't be haunted by this demon anymore. Because this thing, whatever it was definitely, absolutely not human. Nagato's eyes went wide and he felt the crack. Boom! The size of the explosion rocked the foundations that the hindrance stood on. As something dropped out him like a bullet, the thing did not stop, it dived right into the crevice of the hindrance. Nagato was confused. Conan flew away as she stopped. It was then that she saw it. The hindrance was turned into hell itself. Lava exploded from underneath the earth. Nagato's eyes went wide as lava slammed right into him. As the entire place was submerged, everything was being burned. Sizable explosions went off. The ground cracked and swallowed all remaining buildings. Nagato Conan screamed out, but she could not go any further as a massive eruption went out. As it slammed into her with the force of a train, she was sent sailing as she slammed into a broken part of the outskirts of the village. In the land of rain, not the village, in the land of the rain. As her head slammed against the wall, as she collapsed, as she was knocked unconscious. Meanwhile, the village. Nagato saw hell and death. He also saw Naruto, but he was different. But that was the last thing Nagato saw, and the laughter, before he could feel himself being released from this world. Nagato blinked as he was in his village. He was confused, as Nagato was in darkness. It was his village, but it was really dark. And where do you think you're going? He paused at the voice. What is this? Oh, this is my dimension. My reality. This is where all of your souls come to feed me. And now, with the power of your soul, it is mine. The next thing Nagato knew, he was being swallowed from the foot, going up. As he was being ripped apart by several hands that came out of the ground and they started to tear his flesh, biting at him. The hands were biting him that was strange because he had mouths all over them. As he saw Naruto step forward towards him, with that bloodthirsty smile on his face. Thank you. You managed to cure my bloodlust for the moment. It was really entertaining, but it will not compare to what is about to come, said Naruto. That was the last thing Nagato heard before he was submerged. Gone, devoured by whatever these things were. As Naruto stood there, before he released a breath, he then returned back to reality. As he looked at the discard, hindrance that he left behind. But he did not hear, he just simply flew upwards. As he took in a fresh breath, smelling the death and despair, it was wonderful. But he had other things to do as he flew off. The moment he exited the village, he found what he was looking for. Ah, Zetsu, he said. You killed him, said Zetsu. We needed his eyes. I told you before, we don't, said Naruto. And stop raising your voice at me. I told you once already, you're not in charge here. You're just someone I'm keeping alive because of your dedication to your mother. I have something to do at the moment, but I'll be back, and once I do come back, I'll bring back your mother. With that, Naruto blasted off, leaving Zetsu to wonder if he did the right thing. As Naruto was gonna find and kill them anyway, and if he did not tell him, perhaps his mother would not be coming back. But yet, he didn't know if he did the right thing. But it was all for his mother's sake to make sure that she come back. He was her will, her embodiment after all. Meanwhile, at the land of iron, the 4 Kages were there. As Mifune received a report of what was going on, it seems like our action will have to be put forward at a haste. Whatever this thing is, it's not human. Actually, completely far from it, Hokage Dano, said Mifune. The world itself is being torn apart. Earthquakes. Destruction everywhere. The Raikage clenched his fist. Then that just make us have to hurry up and kill whatever this thing is. He was your son once, Hokage Dano. Where can we find him? Oh, he'll be coming to use the voice. As they watch as Gaara materialize out of nothing but dark sand. As she appeared in the hallway, instantly all the bodyguards came down. Menma eyes were burning with absolute rage. Ayo and Kojo was there. The Raikage was backed by Dorue, and another member, not as efficient as C in Genjutsu and Sensory, but he could do his job. His name was Ryu. As Gaara turned her attention towards her siblings, Baki was there. Temari had become the leader, the Kazekage. As she smiled, "Hello sister," she said. "Don't call me that," said Temari. "You are no sisters of ours," said Kankuro. "We thought that we could save you once, but you're a monster." "Oh, was that supposed to hurt?" said Gaara. "I wouldn't attack me if I were you. I mean, I'm not above killing you all right here right now," she said. "After all, you want to see the show, correct?" The moment she said that, half of the building was ripped off as someone blasted through it, tearing through half of the castle before coming to a stop. He was holding two heads of two samurais in his hand. As he tossed them towards Mifune, "They got in my way," said Naruto. The moment he came in, a Rasengan was already drive towards his chest. As Naruto sighed, he grabbed Menma's arm and smashed his skull against Menma's, before driving Menma in the table, obliterating it. He then kicked Menma in the stomach and launched him towards the wall, breaking him through it. "Every time I show up, he's always attack, attack, attack. Can't you get through your thick skull?" said Naruto. "I'm not ready to kill you yet." As Menma groaned in pain as Guy went to check on him. At least your father has some sense, not attacking me on the fly like that," said Naruto. As the Raikage appeared behind Naruto, his hand coming down in lightning. Naruto sighed as he turned. He sliced the man's hand clean off. As he slammed a kick into the man's chest, snapping a few of his ribs, the Raikage crashed through the broken building. "I'm here to talk. Calm the hell down, you people," said Naruto. "Jeez." As Gaara hold his hand. "Are you okay now?" she asked. "Yes, darling," said Naruto, as she gave him a quick kiss. "Now, let's wait for one more person." "Oh, father." "Good to see you," said Naruto as he gave Minato a thumbs up, as Minato clenched his fists. As the others looked at each other, as Naruto turned his head, he looked at me up and down. "Why haven't I met you before?" he said. "Well, I didn't want to meet you," she said. "And I'm glad that we hadn't." "It's a shame," said Naruto, "but I'm not here to fraternize." "Then what are you here for?" said Minato. "Well, the end." "The end of what?" "Everything." As Guy came back with Menma, as he was holding up the bleeding Menma, who was still furious. "Sit down and relax, brother. This will only take a..." Before they could say anything, a black lightning struck the ground, and Jashin was formed from it. "Took you long enough, bitch," said Naruto. "Nice greeting," she said with a smile. "You were foolish enough to let me sense your power. Now I can kill you," she said. "You're here," said Minato. "You know you could have called me," said Jashin. "I would have enjoyed being a part of this meeting of hunting this bastard down." "It's a pity," said Naruto. "What is?" Jashin asked. Finally you made it," said Naruto. As the Shinigami arrived, as Minato turned his head to wonder who the hell Naruto was talking to. As Gaara watched as Temari got up. "Sit down," she said, as her voice caused the place to tremor. "Can't you see we're talking? Don't bother trying to attack anyone now." Temari was afraid. By a single voice, She felt her spine tremble. "Now," said Naruto, as he looked toward the Shinigami. "I'm sure you know what I'm up to. If you haven't figured it by now, you're just a bunch of dumbasses." "Is it done?" said Naruto as Gaara said yes. As Naruto then placed his hand forward, the ground crack open, forcing the bodyguards and all of them to jump away. As Jashin launched herself forward, but she was blocked by Gaara, who slammed into her. Jashin was confused. "How are you so strong?" "Oh, honey, you have no idea what you're dealing with." As Gaara was able to blast her back, the Shinigami watched as Jashin slammed right to the wall. As Naruto watched as the gates of hell rose from the center of the land of iron. There was like a glass there that blocked anyone from entering and exiting. Laughter. A deep dark laughter that was so demonic, it made your ears stood up. Finally, a view of the outside world with my own eyes. "It is so much clearer," said a voice. Jashin picked herself up. "It can't be," she said. "It is, sister." As Jashin was shocked. "Lucifer. Let me introduce you all to Lucifer Morningstar," said Naruto. "It's a pleasure," Lucifer said. The man stood there as he was tall, even taller than Naruto. His eyes were like Naruto's red, but there was this silver glow about it. Similar white hair, a muscular build. The man looked like he was made out of a chisel. Looked like he was tough as stone. As Lucifer looked forward, "Ah, brother, you look, well, after all, I got the looks of the family." "Naruto, you don't know what you're doing. Please, listen to me," said Jashin. "Listen to you?" said Naruto. "Are you mad, woman? You think I would ever listen to you? Look, I know him better than you. He will betray you. And you want me to suffer for what I did to you, but please, whatever you do, if you can release him, don't. He's not someone you want to let out of his cage. Last time it took so much of us to stop him, and yet, you did not trap me completely, sister. But it doesn't matter. Come on, Naruto. We had a deal. After all, your son is waiting." "Son?" said Minato, as Min narrowed his eyes wondering what the hell was going on. "Yes, we indeed have a deal," said Naruto. As Gaara handed Naruto an orb, all of the souls from the hidden stone. "Now," said Naruto, "they're all yours. Breaking through the final dimension to stop this." Jashin shot forward, but Naruto's eyes turned towards her. A blast that slammed into her. She cried in pain as she was now feeling the full extent of Naruto's power. The remaining ninjas such as Minato had to flash away as the entire hall was reduced to dust. As Lucifer placed his hand on the mirror. As Naruto placed his hand on it with the orb, it sunk through the mirror, but it did not break. Jashin rushed back in the room, her eyes frantic. No. Even the Shinigami was speechless, shaking to his core as he couldn't do anything to stop this. Jashin looked towards Yami, who was frozen. He was afraid. So was she, because they knew who this was, and Naruto didn't know what he was doing. "What's going on?" said Naruto. "Why hasn't it broken yet?" "Oh, that's simple. There's one more thing I need to be free. Another surge of power. The most hateful soul of them all." "And who was that?" said Naruto. "You," said the voice. Naruto blinked as a sword shoved right through his chest. As everyone froze. As Naruto slowly turned his head. As Gaara stood behind him. As she was holding the blade. As everyone was shocked, including Jashin, at this betrayal. Naruto was speechless. He was unable to say a single word. As Lucifer smiled at that. But guys, let me end subscribe right here. If you want the next person to do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification so you posted. But I'm over for now. See you guys soon. Peace.